The door slammed shut behind him, but the silence brought no relief. What began as an argument had turned into an avalanche, slow but unstoppable. Someone betrayed. Someone took advantage. Someone stayed silent for far too long. And now, all the masks are off. He vanished from sight, but he wasn't lost. He hadn't left. He was waiting. The plan had been taking shape in the shadows, where there were no tears, no guilt, only cold calculation. They thought he was broken. They were wrong. This was only the beginning. In this game, everyone places their bets, but none of them can see what the final move will cost. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watch this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. Kevin Kessler slammed his truck door with such intensity the whole vehicle rattled. He stood stiffly at the edge of the driveway, eyeing the modest, weather-worn ranch house that he and Jade had shared, if you could call it that, for the last 14 years, each one more strained than the last. His jaw tightened. He considered barging in, reigniting their nightly conflict, stomping around just to remind her he existed. But he didn't move. Not yet. Jade's voice rang out from the doorway like a whip crack. "Well, you coming in, or planning to sulk out there all night?" she snapped. "Dinner's almost done. I'm not making extra if you're gonna loiter like some lost mutt." His heart thumped harder. A nerve twitched in his cheek. With stiff, deliberate steps, he made his way toward the front door, ready to shoulder past her. A cruel little voice in his head egged him on. "Tell her off. Remind her who paid the bills around here." But he swallowed the urge. Without a word, he brushed by her, pushing into the stale, too familiar air of the house. She followed close behind. "You're dragging mud in again," she hissed. "How many times do we have to have this fight?" "You could have cleaned it," he muttered under his breath. "Don't start with me. Not tonight." "Oh, poor you," she shot back, arms crossing like armor. "Rough day at work, so I get to be your punching bag? What a treat." They stared each other down in silence, anger simmering just beneath their expressions. Jade looked brittle, like she might crack from the pressure of holding everything together. Her hair, unevenly bleached and lazily clipped back, revealed dark roots, framing eyes sharp with accusation. Kevin's large frame strained against the sweat-darkened fabric of his shirt. He sneered, but she didn't flinch. Her chin rose in defiance. He was the one who turned away. He shuffled into the cramped kitchen where their daughter, Chloe, sat already at the table. 13 and moody, she barely glanced up from her glowing phone screen before delivering her commentary with a sigh. "Dad's home. Guess it's time for the Happy Family Act." Kevin eyed the device in her hands. "Don't you have homework?" Chloe shrugged without looking up. "Already done. I'll double-check it later." Jade dropped into a chair across from her, releasing a breath like it had been caged in her chest all day. "I'm not sitting through dinner watching you two eye-roll each other into oblivion. Sit down, Kevin." He lingered at the doorway, arms crossed. "Got a headache. Not hungry." "There's always something," she said, voice rasping with fatigue. She gestured toward the casserole cooling in the center of the table, a lumpy, slightly burnt mess of pasta and sauce. "Fine, go hungry. Chloe, dig in before it turns to concrete." Chloe poked at her plate without enthusiasm. Kevin gave them both a final, unreadable look, then turned and walked out. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't have to. He just grabbed his keys from the end table and headed straight for the door. "You're leaving? Again?" Jade called after him, sarcasm heavy in her tone. "Why bother coming home if you're just gonna disappear?" He didn't answer. His jaw clenched. "I need some air." The door slammed behind him with a sound like finality. Outside, he paused, yanking at the collar of his shirt. His eyes drifted back to the truck, where the stale scent of fast food and old coffee lingered. He thought about driving nowhere in particular, just away from her. Instead, he pulled a cigarette from his pocket and lit up, pacing the porch like a caged animal. The brittle grass beneath his boots cracked with each step. Behind him, the door creaked open again. Jade leaned against the frame, arms crossed like a shield. "You want a divorce?" she asked flatly. "If you're gonna threaten it again, don't bother coming back unless you mean it." He flicked ash off the edge of the porch, took a drag, then smirked. "Divorce? Why would I ruin such a perfect arrangement? We're the picture of married bliss." "Cut the crap," she snapped. "You live to play the victim. Every fight's a performance where I'm the villain and you're just the poor guy stuck with me." He stepped closer, blowing smoke in her direction. "You make it pretty damn easy. I bust my ass all day at the lot, and then I come home to this constant bitching. This isn't a marriage. It's a prison sentence." Her expression didn't change. "Prison? You bought this place, remember? I begged you to move years ago. But no, you clung to this fixer-upper like it was gold. We could have had something better, but you were too obsessed with saving every penny." His face flushed. The truth stung. He'd bought the house with dreams of flipping it, making a profit. Instead, it became a decaying symbol of everything that had gone wrong. "You want better? Then go earn it. Don't expect me to pull money out of thin air." "I do earn," she fired back, voice rising. "All those hours at the bookstore must not count in your world. You act like you're some big shot just because you run a failing used car lot. Get over yourself." Kevin's hands curled into fists. He stepped forward, chest rising and falling like he was about to explode. "Don't act like you've got my life all figured out," she spat, her tone laced with white-hot anger. "I earn just enough to keep us fed, when I decide it's even worth the effort." She gave him a hard shove, her words seething through gritted teeth. "You really think that's something to be proud of? You barely lift a finger and I'm supposed to be impressed?" He slapped her hand away, his expression turning cold. "Don't touch me. The day you actually see what I'm worth will be the day hell freezes solid." "Perfect," she fired back. "Because I'd never look up to a man who treats me like garbage." Their eyes locked in a furious stare, the silence between them thick with hostility. After a beat, Kevin flicked his cigarette onto the porch and ground it beneath his boot with deliberate pressure. "I'm done," he snarled, stepping off the wooden steps. "And this time, I mean it." "Don't bother coming back," Jade said over her shoulder, already turning away. Their fights usually ended in bitter exchanges, but this one felt like something else, something final. She slammed the door behind her, sealing him out completely. Kevin cursed under his breath and stomped toward his truck, fury pounding in his chest. For a moment, he thought about storming back up to that door just to shout some more, but instead, he climbed into the cab, started the engine, and peeled off into the darkness. A few hours later, he found himself parked behind a dingy roadside dive. The buzzing neon sign above flickered erratically, casting a jaundiced glow across the windshield. He sat there, staring at it, as if the sign might offer some kind of revelation. Inside, the bar smelled like old beer and forgotten regrets. He settled onto a battered stool at the counter. The bartender approached, but he didn't meet her eyes. "Whiskey. Straight," he muttered. She said nothing and poured without hesitation. He drank in silence. Behind him, a pack of men roared with laughter, exchanging barbs and off-color jokes. One of them tossed out a Polish joke, typical crap he'd heard forever. It always rubbed him the wrong way, not because he was some proud flag waver, but because it was just so tired, so ignorant. Still, they weren't directing it at him. They didn't even know who he was. No one here did. He sighed and took a deeper pull than he meant to. He had intended to pace himself, but the bitterness inside wouldn't wait. Another round followed. Then he pulled out his phone. The screen lit up with missed calls. Jade, his daughter. A number he didn't recognize. Probably some scam. He flicked through his messages, hoping maybe Jade had calmed down. Nothing. Just one from Chloe. Mom's losing it. She says you're not coming back. Is that true? His grip on the phone tightened. Being guilted by his own daughter made his blood simmer. If only she could see what her mother was really like. Then maybe she'd stop sending him texts like that. He placed the phone screen down and turned back to his drink. The hours passed in a haze of alcohol and regret. Eventually, he settled his tab and shuffled out, murmuring a half-hearted thanks to the bartender. The cold night slapped his face, snapping some clarity back into him. When morning arrived, he found himself waking in a shabby motel room just beyond the town limits. His mouth felt like sandpaper, and his head throbbed with a relentless pulse. His phone buzzed beside him, the screen spiderwebbed with cracks. One voicemail was waiting, from someone at the lot. He played it. Amelia's voice came through faint and crackly. "Hey, Kevin. Just wondering how many cars we're bringing in from the next auction. Gavin came by to check the transmissions from the last load, but I told him you weren't here. Everything all right?" He sat up slowly, throat burning. After clearing it, he hit redial. "Yeah, Amelia, I'll be in soon," he croaked. "Don't worry about Gavin, I'll handle it." Once upon a time, Gavin had been more than just a work contact, maybe even a friend. These days, Kevin mostly saw him as a decent mechanic who kept the gears turning. Still, something about their dynamic had changed. He had a gnawing suspicion that Gavin had been running his mouth, calling him unreliable, maybe worse. Kevin never confronted him, but the thought wouldn't let go. "All right, boss," Amelia replied, her voice soft but serious. "You sound rough. Are you sure you're okay?" He exhaled slowly. "Just had a blowout at home. I'll be in soon to sort the auction list. We'll get it done." After the call, he rubbed his face, eyes fixed on the ceiling. He had no clue how to make things right with Jade. Maybe it wasn't even worth trying. The idea of leaving for good sent a dangerous thrill through him. Maybe this was it. Maybe he was finally done. He checked out of the motel and drove to the lot. Amelia was waiting inside the office, her face drawn with concern. She stood straight-backed, arms crossed, hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun. She always meant business. "Kevin, what's happening at home?" He offered a dismissive shrug. "Same old fight. Jade's furious, Chloe's brooding." Amelia's mouth tightened. "That kind of tension? It seeps into everything, even the job, and that's not good for anyone." His jaw tensed. "My personal life has nothing to do with how we run this business. Let's focus." She hesitated, then nodded. "Got it. Anyway, 10 cars coming in from the auction tomorrow. We should be ready." Gavin had said he could wrap up a detailed evaluation in under a week. Kevin walked over to the desk and leafed through the pile of bills. "All right, make sure he has them by Monday. I'll check in after that." Right then, the door creaked open. Gavin strode in. He was tall, hands smudged with oil, and wore a confident smirk like it was part of his uniform. "Heard you and the missus had another round," he said lightly, not dropping the grin. "Everything straight?" Kevin's gut twisted at that familiar smug expression widening. "You're not paid to pry," he snapped. "Get back to the transmissions." Gavin raised both palms as if to say he meant no harm. "Hey, just making conversation." Kevin ground his teeth, holding back the sharper words at the tip of his tongue. "That all you needed?" he asked, tone clipped. Gavin gave a casual nod. "Yep, that's it." Without another word, Kevin turned and made for the garage. As he walked, he glanced back at Gavin's retreating figure, a slow, seething anger rising in his chest. He couldn't shake the feeling that the guy enjoyed hearing about his personal disasters. Behind him, Amelia cleared her throat. "You sure about keeping him around?" she asked from behind the counter. "He's starting to get bold." Kevin knocked his knuckles against the wood. "He's still the best mechanic in town. I'm not firing him just because he's got a big mouth." Amelia nodded slowly, but the disapproval was plain on her face. That evening, Kevin drove home, tension coiling in his stomach. A part of him braced for the worst, for his belongings to be tossed outside in the dirt. But the yard was untouched, still overgrown, riddled with dry patches and stubborn weeds. He sat in the car for a while, gathering the nerve to go inside. Jade was sprawled on the couch, watching some trashy reality show, eyes fixed on the screen. She didn't look up. "Look who came crawling back." Kevin's jaw clenched. "Just here to grab a few things." "I don't recall saying you could stay," she muttered without glancing away. "Stay, leave. Just stop stomping around like some man-sized toddler." He stepped closer, voice low and cold. "That television's on because I'm still paying the bills." She let out a dry laugh, cutting and sharp. "Same line, different day. Think a couple of bills makes you some kind of king? Get real. You barely keep us above water. This place is a wreck, and you're always one broken part away from rock bottom." His temper flared. "At least I'm out there working." "Oh yeah," she snapped. "Patching up junkers and pushing rust buckets, real noble stuff." She gave a sarcastic little snort. "Can't blame our kid for being embarrassed to talk about what you do." He froze. "Chloe said that?" "Maybe. You know how kids are," Jade said, finally turning toward him with a glare. "She's tired of you blowing up all the time. We both are." He opened his mouth to fire back, but the sound of footsteps cut through the moment. Chloe appeared, earbuds still in, phone clutched in one hand. She looked annoyed. "Can you two knock it off already?" she said. "Go to your room," Kevin barked. "This is between your mom and me." "Is it?" she asked, folding her arms. "Or are we discussing how I'm supposed to explain my dad's junkyard gig to my friends?" She rolled her eyes. "You two act like you're stuck in middle school." "Now," he snapped, pointing down the hallway. With a dramatic sigh and a stomp, she turned and disappeared. Jade got off the couch, stepping in close, her face inches from his. "Don't talk to her like that," she hissed. "She's not your emotional punching bag. She's mine too." His eyes narrowed. "And who pays for the roof over her head, huh? Me. That mortgage has my name on it. Don't forget that." Her voice shook with fury. "You love waving that around, don't you? Guess what? You walked out. You gave up the high ground when you slammed that door." He grabbed her wrist tightly, his voice a low threat. "Keep pushing, and you'll be the one packing bags. Don't test me." She jerked away, eyes blazing. "Put your hands on me again, and I'll call the police so fast your head'll spin. Let's see how you like a jail cell." "Wouldn't even be the worst thing I've dealt with this week," he said with a sneer. His hand twitched, half lifted in rage, but he forced it down. "You're not worth the effort." She glared daggers at him, holding her wrist, and stormed off to the kitchen. He stayed rooted in place, fists balled, breath shallow. Then, without another word, he turned and marched into the bedroom, yanked a duffel from the closet, and began cramming clothes inside. Within the hour, he was gone. The weeks that followed passed in a haze of budget motels and restless nights curled up in the cab of his truck. He made no move to settle things with Jade, like he was waiting for some final excuse, some irredeemable break. But the arguments only got nastier. Whenever they talked, he seized control of the conversation, issuing threats, ranting about finances, or accusing her of being ungrateful. She snapped back with barbed comments about his so-called business ventures and how he couldn't even provide a stable home for them. When the house fell silent, Kevin found himself dreading any encounter with Chloe. A heavy guilt hung over him. He had left her stuck between two people who could barely tolerate each other. And yet, when he did face her, all he managed were sharp commands or bitter outbursts. Chloe would usually flee to her room, crank her music loud, and bury herself in her phone. Before long, she stopped engaging with him at all. Meanwhile, the used car lot demanded constant attention. A new batch of vehicles arrived, and Kevin lost himself in negotiation and long hours, trying to shut out the mess his home life had become. He kept a cautious eye on Gavin, suspecting underhanded behavior, though nothing ever surfaced to confirm it. Still, Gavin's smug demeanor rubbed Kevin raw. Amelia tried to mediate, reminding him that some semblance of peace was necessary for everyone involved, but the air remained tense. One stifling afternoon, Kevin returned from a burger run to find Gavin leaning casually against the front counter, chatting with Amelia. He wore a smug grin, like he'd just landed a punchline. Amelia's expression didn't share the amusement. Kevin strode in without pause. "You need something, Gavin?" Gavin smiled lazily. "That depend on you?" Kevin tossed his burger wrapper onto a nearby table. "Amelia, everything good here?" She gave a stiff nod. "Yes, boss." Turning his gaze back to Gavin, Kevin's tone sharpened. "Then move along. This is a workplace, not a lounge. Talking up my manager isn't part of your job." Gavin gave a sarcastic salute, backing away. "Whatever you say, Captain." Kevin glared after him, jaw tight, chewing the inside of his cheek. Amelia let out a breath. "He's been nosing around, asking questions about you and Jade," she said under her breath. "Said he's worried about your mental state. I told him to back off." Kevin cursed under his breath. "He's poison. If he starts digging again, shut it down fast." Amelia leaned in closer, voice lower. "Also, I overheard him earlier, on the phone. He said something about meeting someone for coffee, and he mentioned your wife by name." Kevin felt the words hit like a gut punch. "Jade?" Amelia nodded, apologetic. "Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear much. Just enough to catch, 'All right, Jade, see you soon.' Thought it was odd. Didn't know they were even in touch." Kevin's stomach tightened. His eyes stung. "Thanks, Amelia. I'll handle it from here." He stormed to his office, slammed the door, and collapsed into his worn-out swivel chair. The thought of Jade and Gavin meeting privately sent fury surging through him. Were they laughing behind his back, planning something worse? He was drowning in anger and suspicion, but first he needed certainty, evidence, and more than anything, the business couldn't fall apart. He wouldn't let Gavin or Jade destroy what he had built. That evening, he parked outside the house he technically still co-owned, ready to spy. Chloe was probably at a friend's place or buried in books at the library. That didn't matter. What mattered was whether Gavin was with Jade right now. He crept up the dimly lit porch, catching the soft glow of a lamp filtering through the closed curtains. Peering through a narrow gap, he saw Jade on the couch, flipping through TV channels in yoga pants and a tank top. She looked exhausted, slouched and disinterested. No sign of Gavin. Kevin hovered, one hand half raised to knock, when headlights washed over the driveway. He ducked into the shadows. An old pickup pulled in. Gavin stepped out, glancing at his phone. Kevin's pulse pounded. Gavin walked toward the door casually, while Jade stood and ran a hand through her hair. She opened the door before he even knocked. He stepped inside like he belonged there. Kevin clenched his jaw, grinding his teeth. He crouched low behind a patchy bush, the dry leaves beneath him crackling. Through the window, he watched them speak in hushed tones. Jade's arms were crossed, clearly annoyed. Gavin raised his hands, possibly trying to explain or apologize. Eventually, they both sat down. Gavin inched closer. Jade didn't pull away. She rubbed her temples as she talked, her face twisted in exasperation before she let out a long, tired sigh. Gavin nodded, listening attentively. Then she reached out, briefly touched his arm. He placed a hand gently on her back. She didn't move away. Kevin felt sick. He imagined them united in contempt, sneering at him behind closed doors. Then Gavin said something that made Jade roll her eyes and spring up from the couch. She crossed her arms again, clearly irritated, and walked away. Gavin followed her. They disappeared down the hallway, toward the bedroom. Kevin's hands trembled with rage. Were they? He didn't want to imagine it. He wanted to smash the window, charge inside, and rip Gavin apart. Instead of facing them directly, a warped instinct for self-preservation pushed him toward his truck, boiling with rage. His heart pounded as he sped off, his thoughts swarming with violent scenarios. Any illusion he'd held onto, that Jade still respected him, was gone. He felt used, humiliated. Confronting her would only backfire. She'd probably mock him or worse, threaten to call the police. He needed a plan. One thing was clear now. Gavin wasn't just some grease-stained mechanic. He'd become someone Jade trusted, maybe even more than that. For days, Kevin kept his distance from both Jade and Chloe, simmering in silence, carefully considering how to hold on to what was left of his life. If Jade thought she could shove him aside and play domestic bliss with Gavin, she had another thing coming. In the meantime, Kevin kept tabs on Gavin at the shop, demanding constant updates and conveniently ignoring the double standard. He wasn't about to let the guy slack off while possibly sneaking around with Jade behind his back. His patience thinned by the day. When Amelia brought up a problem with a title transfer, he lashed out without thinking. Later, when a customer tried to haggle, he nearly blew a fuse. Word traveled fast. Kevin was in a mood, and people began avoiding him. Gavin, on his end, turned oddly formal. The playful sarcasm was gone. Anytime Kevin approached, Gavin would suddenly hang up whatever call he was on. Amelia quietly mentioned that Gavin seemed tense lately. One edgy afternoon, after a grueling deal, Kevin spotted him near the garage. A pile of oily rags sat on the bench, and the whole place reeked of grease and nerves. Kevin's voice was sharp, almost icy. "We need to settle something. Don't lie to me." Gavin's face turned stone. "What's this about?" Kevin folded his arms tight. "I know you went to see Jade the other night." Gavin hesitated just a beat too long. "She called. Her car wouldn't start. It was personal." Kevin stepped in, close enough to feel Gavin's breath. "Don't feed me that garbage. You sneak off to my house and call it personal? You messing with me? With my wife?" Gavin threw up his hands in frustration. "Your wife? You walked out on her. She can see whoever she wants." The words hit like a slap to Kevin's pride. "Oh, that's the story now? That I abandoned her? So it's just open invitation to my home?" Gavin's face twisted. "You need to cool down. You don't get to speak about my family or my business," Kevin snarled, gripping Gavin's collar, his voice trembling with rage. Gavin didn't budge. "Take your hands off me." Kevin's grip only tightened, his eyes blazing. Gavin's hands curled into fists. One of them might have thrown the first punch until Amelia burst in, shouting, "That's enough!" She grabbed Kevin's arm and yanked it back. He let go, his body still trembling. Gavin backed off, jaw locked, chest heaving. He took a shaky breath and stormed past Kevin. "Next time, keep your hands off," he snapped as he reached the door. "You're not my boss." "I'm a contractor," he added, his voice flat. "Then leave," Kevin shot back, nostrils flaring. Gavin stopped, sneered. "No, you need me. But if you're done, that's your loss. I'll be just fine. Don't expect me to clean up your disasters." And with that, he walked out. Amelia stared at Kevin, eyes wide and stunned. "Boss, this has to stop. You're going to scare off the ones who actually care." Kevin laughed, dry, bitter. "Care? He's a traitor. If he wants Jade, he can have her." She gave a slow, disapproving shake of her head. "Your temper's gonna destroy everything. Let me make some calls. We'll line up a replacement." Kevin hesitated, the reality sinking in. Gavin was the backbone of the garage. "Fine," he muttered, the word tasting like ashes. "But I'm not paying through the nose." Amelia gave a curt nod and rushed out, worry still etched into her face. That night, Kevin sat alone in his cheap motel room. A toxic mix of pride and bitterness churned in his gut. He'd stood his ground against Gavin. He wasn't a coward. But the image of Jade laughing with that guy, maybe even dragging him into her bed, made Kevin's skin crawl. The shame was unbearable. He downed half a bottle of whiskey, letting his imagination twist the knife, playing out fantasies of revenge where he came out on top and made them both feel worthless. 3 nights later, everything shattered. Kevin was dozing in his motel bed when the phone rang, jarring him awake. It was Chloe. Her voice was frantic. "Dad?" she cried. "Mom's freaking out. She's breaking stuff and screaming about the mortgage." "They're saying you're trying to throw us out," came the shaky voice on the other end of the line. "Gavin is here too. They're both calling you scum. I'm really scared." Kevin's brain scrambled for clarity as he glanced at the clock. A few minutes before midnight. "Why are you even awake? Shouldn't you be asleep right now?" "I was," she whispered, her voice broken by sniffles. "But the yelling woke me up. She's freaking out over some paperwork about the house. Something about losing it? I don't understand it." Kevin exhaled sharply and pushed himself upright. "I'm coming over," he said, his voice gravelly with exhaustion and frustration. "Don't answer the door for either of them. Just stay in your room and wait for me," he added. The thought of telling his daughter to hide in her own home twisted something in his gut. But he knew too well how Jade could spiral, and with Gavin in the mix, the situation could spin out of control. He threw on a coat and stormed out the door. The drive dragged like time had slowed. When he finally pulled up, the neighborhood was quiet, except for the house ahead, glowing with lights from multiple windows. He killed the engine, climbed out, and made a beeline for the door. Without pause, he unlocked it and stepped inside. A wave of alcohol hit his nose immediately. In the living room, Jade was pacing frantically, alternating between angry sobs and furious rants, gripping a wine bottle that was nearly empty. Gavin lingered nearby, watching her with a strange mix of worry and smugness. Both went rigid the moment Kevin stepped into view. "You disgusting piece of trash," Jade slurred, lifting the bottle as though ready to swing it. "Just waltzing in like you own everything?" Kevin's jaw tensed. "I do own this place. Now put the bottle down before you do something really dumb." Gavin stepped forward, eyes narrowed. "Watch your tone. You walked away from this family. You don't get to march back in and start barking orders." Kevin let out a dry laugh. "Family? She gave up that title the moment she started sleeping with you." Jade's face contorted with rage. "How dare you accuse me of that, you paranoid freak? And even if I had, it's your fault. I was alone. You left." Kevin's voice rose, cold and sharp. "Then maybe it's time I make it official. Maybe I kick you both out. This is my house, don't forget it." Jade lunged, swinging the bottle at him. "You bastard! Try it, I dare you!" He caught her wrist mid-air, holding it firm until the bottle slipped and spilled red wine onto the carpet. Gavin shoved him hard in the chest. "Back off!" Gavin snarled. Kevin stumbled but didn't let go until Jade yelped. Only then did he release her. She staggered back, breathing heavily. Gavin stepped between them, fists clenched, ready to fight. "Chloe!" Kevin called out toward the hallway. "Where are you?" A small voice floated out from the shadows. "I'm here," she said softly, her cheeks streaked with tears. "Please, just stop." Jade whipped around, pointing furiously. "Get out! You don't belong here anymore, you controlling jerk!" Kevin clenched his teeth. "I'll leave when I'm damn well ready. Maybe after I change the locks or finalize the sale." Gavin moved to block him again. "You don't get to talk to her like that." Kevin scoffed. "Oh, look at you, trying to play man of the house now, in a place I paid for?" Before Gavin could answer, Chloe's voice cut through the tension, loud and raw. "I'm so sick of this," she cried. "You all hate each other. Just admit it and stop dragging me into it." Jade shot her a glare. "Don't raise your voice at me. He's the problem here, not me." Kevin shook his head with disdain. "You're both pathetic. I should have walked away for good a long time ago, and now look, she's turning into a mirror of you." Chloe recoiled. "Shut up, Dad!" she shouted. Regret flickered in her eyes but quickly vanished beneath a storm of anger. That's when Gavin snapped, He lunged without warning, but Kevin dodged and slammed an elbow into his ribs. Gavin grunted and stumbled backward. Jade screamed and darted toward him. Chloe's scream pierced the air. "Stop it! Just stop!" Kevin turned away from the chaos and snatched the pile of mail off the table. He rifled through until he found what he was looking for, a bank statement showing a mortgage nearly paid in full. "Perfect," he muttered. "Now I can finish the sale and make sure you're out for good." Jade's glare was pure fire. "You wouldn't," he smirked. "You wanted something better? Good luck finding it. I'm done covering for you." He made for the door. Jade grabbed the back of his coat and yanked with a strength that startled him. Their eyes met, hers burning with rage. Gavin limped to a halt just behind her. Off to the right, Chloe stood motionless, one hand pressed to her mouth. "You won't keep bullying me," Jade hissed, her breath hot against his skin. "You're vile, but you're not invincible." His stare bore down on her. "Watch me." With one swift move, he broke free of her grip and stormed out. The door slammed shut with a violent bang that rattled the frame. Over the next several weeks, Kevin immersed himself in action. He contacted a lawyer, someone recommended through a loose connection, and initiated the legal steps to list the house for sale. He began stripping Jade's name from every joint account they shared. Meanwhile, he kept a wide berth from the town, devoting his days to tracking leads, attending property auctions, and expanding his network among new business partners. He moved like a man possessed, vengeance fueling every move. In his mind, Jade and Gavin were struggling just to stay afloat, while he orchestrated a quiet, calculated financial coup. He didn't spare a thought for Chloe. Through Amelia, he caught whispers. Gavin had lost some contract work thanks to his aggressive behavior, which meant his cash flow was drying up. Jade, still clinging to her modest income from the bookstore, was clearly cracking under the strain. They were cornered. That reality thrilled Kevin. Every morning, he looked in the mirror and saw someone closer to victory. His personal life may have been wrecked, but in this war, he was the one on top. He handed off day-to-day duties to Amelia. The used car lot? Sold off, to a shell company under his control, neatly keeping it out of Jade's reach. Morality didn't matter. Power did. He still owned everything, just behind layers of paper and names. The plan unfolded perfectly. Amelia handled all the filings, making it appear like new ownership had taken over. Kevin made occasional appearances, but on paper he was just a consultant now. He fed off the lie. Jade wouldn't be able to trace a thing, he was sure. Then came the final blow. His lawyer delivered the notice. Jade had 30 days before the house went up for sale. She needed to be out. The day after the letter landed, she called. Furious. He ignored the ring and let it hit voicemail. Her voice came through like a storm, nearly unintelligible in her fury. But he caught the heart of it. "You sick bastard. You're leaving Chloe and me with nothing." He grinned and deleted the message. 3 days later, just as the last light sank behind the buildings, he stepped into his new place. A tiny one-bedroom with bare furnishings, nothing luxurious, but it was his space. No Jade, no Chloe, no memories. As he turned the key and pushed open the door, he froze. Footsteps behind him. He turned fast, fists clenched by instinct. Jade stood at the threshold, eyes wild with rage. Her black coat hung open, hair disheveled, cheeks flushed. The hallway light cast deep shadows across her face. She looked like a woman ready to break. "How'd you find this place?" he barked. "I never gave you the address." She stepped closer. "I'm not an idiot. Gavin gave me enough. I connected the dots." Her voice trembled, thick with emotion. "You ran away like a damn coward." Kevin's face hardened. "Because I'm sick of your games. I'm done. Get out of my way." She tried to barge past him, but he blocked the entrance with a stiff arm. Her eyes narrowed. "I need money, Kevin." He let out a bitter laugh. Why would I give you anything? You've got Gavin now. Let him take care of you. She pushed him, voice breaking. He's flat broke, you cold bastard. You brought this on yourself. You sold out the business. You left me with nothing and now you're crying foul? I owe you nothing. Chloe and you can figure it out. She reached for him again, but he swatted her hand aside. You didn't care about Chloe when you were sneaking around with Gavin behind my back. Her expression turned to fury. You twist everything. You've always needed to control every dime, every detail. He stepped forward, forcing her to back into the hall. If that's how you see it, then so be it. Her fists clenched. Give me something, or I swear— Or what? He snapped, voice sharp. Gonna make a scene? Call the cops? You have no leverage. I own the house. I've won. And you're getting nothing. She lashed out, face contorted in fury. He caught her wrist midair and shoved her backward. She slammed into the wall, nearly losing her balance. Her eyes blazed with hate. She lunged again, but this time he didn't hold back. He shoved her to the ground in one brutal push. Stay down, he said, his voice raw and hollow. I'm not your sparring partner, and I'm certainly not your ATM, she snapped, her fury spiraling into something raw, almost unhinged. She looked like she might strike again, but the unyielding steel in his gaze held her frozen. The tension hung heavy between them until she finally collapsed against the wall, chest rising and falling with ragged breaths, tears glinting faintly as they streaked down her cheeks. You'll regret this. I swear you will, she choked out, her voice brittle and shaking with rage. He responded with a sneer, lips twisting into a cruel smile. Keep dreaming. Get out. She pushed herself upright, her jaw quivering. For a split second, it seemed like she might explode, her anger barely leashed. But she only spun on her heel, stumbling down the hall as her retreating footsteps echoed off the walls. He didn't move, eyes locked on her retreat until she vanished into the stairwell. His fists remained clenched, tension humming through his veins. With a harsh slam, he shut the door. His heart pounded, adrenaline surging through him like wildfire. Let her threaten all she wanted. None of it mattered now. It was done, and he wasn't going back. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.